Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Eric Larson Day. It's Saturday. Hope you're having a great weekend. We're looking at the next issue from a Savage Dragon series, the Savage Dragon issue number 32, cover dated October 96. Pretty striking cover. This is Savage Dragon basically on his way back from hell, or in his case, he thinks maybe it was just all a dream, right? He's not quite sure because he's always been an atheist. That's part of the storyline. But there's a funny little part in here that I'll read out to you guys when we get to it, which is a reminder of what was talked about in the last few issues with God and stuff. Well, the last issue with God. And before he went to hell, he had his arms cut off. So these emaciated arms are the result of his arms eventually growing back, which makes for a pretty awesome visual on this cover here. Him crawling out of this fire with those little tiny arms does stand out. Good use of negative space. The shadow and stuff looks good. You know, I don't feel like he's wasted the page with all this area here that has nothing in it. It just, you know, makes us attracts our attention to where it needs to be, right on the dragon. Fire looks good, coloring and everything. So let's have a look inside, see what's going on there. A lot of good plot points in this issue from many different characters. I've talked about how Larson is great storytelling-wise and story-wise, juggling all these different characters and different storylines for all of them. That continues here, and every issue of Savage Dragon is going to have something new and interesting in it. I don't think he's missed anything like that in any of the past issues. I don't know how it's going to go past issue 50, because I've talked about how hitting issue 50 is probably where I'm going to stop going over the Savage Dragon, just because issues after that tend to be cost prohibitive. Maybe I'll get into the trades. I'll see when I get near there. We'll see. If I'm still interested in the storyline, I may just get those trades and continue on till the point where I'm maybe not interested anymore. So real quick, Eric Larson, creator, writer, penciler, inker. Chris Iliopoulos is the letterer still. iHawker doing the colors. In Colors doing the film output. Still no idea what that means. Anyone knows, let me know in the comments. And we're starting off with a very familiar page. I'm pretty sure it's been redrawn, but it's the same kind of layout and composition as the first time we meet the dragon way back in Savage Dragon #1, the miniseries, in that burning parking lot or field where he was found, right? So very similar once again. But redrawn, not restatted or copied or anything. So just keeping the same kind of layout. I think that's a good idea. But, of course, with the spindly arms. Really quite a focus on the arms, right? Savage Dragon has always been a good example of body horror stuff. So, you know, Larson definitely seemed to enjoy that and plays it up here. The gentleman who cast the spell to send him to hell is burning away here, as when Dragon reintegrated his body here on Earth from hell, everything kind of just exploded and caught fire last issue. Now this issue gives us a lot more info on Star and his backstory finally, and kind of answering some of the questions and giving us more info into the mysteries behind Star and his identity, because basically we've always kind of thought it was Peter Clapton, this kind of rock star guy in the Savage Dragon universe, but really what it is he hires another guy to dress up as Star, so he doesn't have to risk, I guess, actually being the superhero and getting into these situations. And somehow the part I find out is, you know, no one knows that Peter Clapton is Star, so you know, how is he reaping the benefits of that? I guess that'll be revealed maybe later rather than sooner, but it's nice to get a bit of backstory there. And it's funny because he just restats this whole page here and re-narrates it, so, you know, smart way of not having to draw another page there. This is the part where funny to see again the dragon with his huge upper torso, but just the arms still being so tiny and spindly. So here's where he explains to Frank, right? He's like, I saw God, Frank. Bonnie Harris made a deal with the devil to get my soul sent to hell, and God came to my rescue. Obviously, what do you answer to that? Yeah, that's what I thought too. Still, it was a pretty vivid dream, and now Mrs. Harris is dead. Go figure. Don't go nuts on me, pal. Fat chance. Still, just to be safe, I'm thinking of abandoning atheism and start believing in an afterlife that includes making mad, passionate love to a bevy of leggy supermodels. In reference to his conversation with God last issue, where he says, God basically explains that the afterlife will be whatever you think it should be. And Savage Dragon kind of throws out this idea. And God kind of says, yeah, if you believe, that's what's going to happen. So I guess he's having a crisis of faith. I don't know if he's kind of joking or not. Guess we'll find out later. So some more star action. So revealing obviously that, you know, the star that we thought was Peter Clapton saving this girl or helping out the Savage Dragon that first issue actually isn't. It's our gentleman here who's helping him out, who Peter Clapton is paying. Another subplot that's been going on between Super Patriot's son Justice and Dart. They've been dating, and this guy Killcat, quite a jerk. You know, I just recently got the Deadly Duo miniseries because John Cleary draws it, and I'll be reviewing it at some point. Not realizing what kind of a psychopath Killcat here is. So he's beating up Justice because he's hanging out with Dart and dating her, and Justice says he was warned about Killcat. That he's kind of just a psycho who thinks they had a relationship and now is like super jealous. It'll get resolved near the end here, but yeah, Killcat now, just a character I really don't like, to be honest. So we've got, what is his name? This police officer with the craggly face. We learn later basically that he was at this hospital trying to get some of Savage Dragon's blood to help save his friend, Phil, I believe his name is, who's dying of AIDS, right? A lot of characters dying of AIDS in the 90s. It was just kind of the scary go-to infection or disease, whatever you want to call it, that you would work into storytelling, especially in comic books, right? It was the kind of the disease of the day, and that was being discussed in the media. So I know now Savage Dragon took a stab at it. Bloodfire's a good example. Rob Liefeld had Chapel have AIDS, right? Who else had AIDS? One of the Hulk's friends in the Hulk series, right? So those are the examples I can think of now, but it was just kind of a common trope to use back then in such a weird way. And yeah, because Justice is thrown through the window here at the hospital, we assume by Killcat, so at least he brought him to the hospital. Neeson, is that his name? Anyways, he can't, there's too much attention everywhere, and he can't get access to Dragon's blood because it's been mentioned before, they keep a bunch of Dragon's blood there in case he comes in and needs a transfusion of his own blood. It's kind of a morbid way to plan, but there it is. I don't know what's going on with Barbaric's hair. It keeps changing. You know, he used to have long hair with braids and stuff, then it got short, and now it's come back. Or was it just tied up? Like, I don't know what's going on, and it's not the greatest look. It's a very 90s mullety look. And I do think he just looked better with, you know, long hair and braids. The lady he just punched out, her name is Heavy Flow. I'll leave it up to you as to what that refers to, but I tend to think it's some sort of, her powers are maybe menstruation related, and I'm going to just leave it at that. Larson loves pointing out and highlighting the nipples, especially on the ladies. So I think as we move along, it's just like now, it's always cold out, and the ladies' nipples are on display. So Rapture here, starting to feel the kicks and pains from the baby. That at this point, it's pretty much, we've ascertained that it is the dragon's baby. At least we're pretty sure. Again, a funny kind of looking shot of the dragon with its tiny arms, and he's gonna say Niesman. I think it's Niesman. Anyways, that's this guy's name, and he shows up to Dragon's house, telling him, that's where he explains that he was going to steal the blood from the hospital to help save his partner, but now he's, you know, because of all the attention he couldn't, and he's come to ask the dragon for some blood, and the dragon's actually willing to go and give this guy dying of AIDS a transfusion in the hopes that it'll heal him. It's pretty cool illustration here by, I missed it, Arnie Jorgensen and Al Gordon. I know Al Gordon, Jorgensen, I've never really heard of before. Pretty good job here. It'd be nice to see maybe more art from him. But yeah, I don't know much more about him other than this pinup here. Oh, body count, man. I've got a few issues, I think. Just to find original copies of this is almost impossible, or just very cost prohibitive. Maybe the trade would be fun to get at some point, but I think even that is hard to find. Some really awesome Bisley art on that series, and once I get the complete thing in one form or another, I'll be covering it for sure. So getting to the hospital here, Rapture's already there. Dragon's going to be going with Niesman to help save his friend. Kind of a weird, I'm surprised that Larson didn't really pick up on this, but there's kind of a slight tangent with Frank here, and his shoulders almost or pretty much lining up with Barbaric's, so it looks a little odd here. You know, moving Frank over to the right or to the left would have solved that. You know, I think generally Eric Larson knows all these kind of rules or these basic things you should follow. So that's just probably an oversight on his part. Just looks really odd. So here we've got our guy throwing the wig back at Peter Clapton here, because he's like, I can't wear this wig. It caught fire and stuff, and it's a nuisance. And Peter Clapton looks a little kind of, I guess, somber here. I understand, he says. Thing is, Chris, I've gone to great lengths to make people think that I'm Star. Okay, so people are aware that that Peter Clapton is Star. Whenever you go out, I vanish. Whenever a crime happens, I disappear. Oh, again, that's very ambiguous. Does he just want the rumors out there that he's possibly Star? I guess because the hair is the kind of dead giveaway, right? And that's why it's so important that he wear the wig. Well, now you went and got my hair burned off, and now you don't want to wear the wig that makes your hair look like mine. Fine. But if Star doesn't have long hair, neither can I. Jesus. And I'm going to assume he burned it off. Not quite sure. It would be a long time before I went out as Star again. And I don't think it's going to be resolved in this issue. So I am kind of looking forward to seeing what happens here. And this is what I mean about Eric Larson being the best writer at Image. He's just got a way of keep leaving you hanging with certain things and having resolved situations on other things. So every issue resolves something, most times, and starts something else, right? Or leaves you wanting to see what happens next issue, which obviously is a smart move, right? And so Dart shows up, finds Killcat, and, basically beats the crap out of him for having beat the crap out of her date or boyfriend at this point, Justice. And she's reiterating that he's a psycho and that there is no chance in hell of any kind of relationship between them here. And clearly Ashley's just kicking his ass. So here's our guy, clearly in bad shape here. He's got the Freddie Mercury look we've seen from the late Freddie Mercury's last few pictures. I think that's still, to a certain extent, how people saw AIDS, at least through the 90s, right? Today, it's something, I don't want to de-dramatize it, but it is a lot easier to medicate and keep in check, right, than it was in the 90s. Not quite so dire as it used to be, but, I think everything before the internet and stuff, the most we knew about AIDS was kind of, honestly, Freddie Mercury, right? He was the most public figure, and, we could get paparazzi pictures here and there of his last few days. Even if you look at the last video he shot, if you're into Queen, it's called These Are the Days of Our Lives or something like that, or Days of Our Lives. I think. Anyways, you can probably, last Queen video on YouTube, it'll pop up. You can see that he's not doing well. They put a lot of makeup on him and stuff, but he's very skinny, very gaunt. And he'd be gone a few months after they shot that video. So yeah, we're going to do the blood transfusion here, and in the same hospital, we've got Rapture kind of suffering through, the baby's kicking, and they're saying they need to take it out, but Rapture doesn't want to because it hasn't gone to full term, or at least she feels it hasn't, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be something else for next issue that I'm looking forward to finding out about. And so we do get a bit of a resolve here, where Savage Dragon's blood transfusion worked, right? And Phil here is very happy. And of course, something goes wrong here as he starts to suffer a little bit, and Neeson is not very happy about it. And what is it that happens to him? Well, boom, takes on an outwardly appearance that's clearly very similar to the Savage Dragons. So, and this line's kind of funny. I hope I don't have another headache like that again. I guess this grew out of his head. And what are you guys staring at? And of course, we're gonna, see where that leads next issue. Love these two very simple silhouettes here. Well done. He's throwing in the white medium, or maybe I think he's even using maybe a blade on that to get that ticky kind of effect, but very quickly done, I guess, to add interest to the silhouette. I don't know if it's necessary, but it does kind of make it a little more interesting and just makes the drawing a little more alive. But great background shot with those just very simple silhouettes, right? Kind of borders the panel within the page. All right, good stuff. All the Savage Dragon lady characters. Yeah, these are kind of weird when they come in late like this, to introduce Ricochet, and we're getting a lot of backstory on her. Maybe it'd be nice if that backstory was revealed more in the storylines, I guess, but maybe it's a quick way for Larson to do some catch up on her, so people who haven't read, I guess, Freak Force know less about her. And I assume that's why he's got Barbaric in there as well. See, yeah, this look here without the bangs is what I think is the best Barbaric look with his hair. Or just loose out, not tied up. That could work too, but those bangs just do not do it for me. The Savage Dragon Destroyer Duck 48-page special. I don't think I've ever seen this. I would be interested in seeing it and reading it, so maybe I'll look that one up. Oh, McFarlane Toys doing a super page toy. Very cool. Obviously the Dave Johnson version from the first miniseries. Very manga influenced, and it's tech. Very cool series as well. All right, guys, that is my review of the Savage Dragon issue number 32. If you're subscribed and you're still watching, thank you so much for sticking around. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a second. Really helps the channel out, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comics just like we are. Everyone out there, have a great weekend and have an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13. 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like! Subscribe!